How do we use our mind? Are we using our mind properly? Or are we slaves of it? Do we have control over it, or does it control us? What is the best way to deal with our mind? Our thoughts.
What really is the mind, and how is it different from the brain?
The mind is not the same as the brain. Those who think like that are completely mistaken. The mind is energy. It is subtle. Brain is the physical part that is enclosed inside a human skull. It has been fully demonstrated by many experts of parapsychology that the brain is not the mind. Mind can become independent of matter. Under hypnosis, many people have given detailed information about events, people, and situations that were happening very far away at the time they were in such a state. After doing those experiments, scientists have been able to verify that the information was correct, that the facts were real, that the events were reported accurately. We can truly say that the mind can travel through time and space, regardless of the brain, to see and hear things that happen in distant places.
If that is so, then what about the thoughts? Where do they come from, the brain or the mind?
Thought is a function of the mental body, or the energy of the mind. Man can think without his physical brain. Thought is independent of the brain matter. This has already been demonstrated in scientific laboratories. They have been able to materialize disembodied entities.
Then which one is more powerful, brain or the mind?
The brain is controlled by the mind, but the mind is not controlled by the brain. The brain is the instrument of emotions and consciousness, but it produces neither emotions nor consciousness. It is the mind that produces emotions and consciousness. The reality of extrasensory perception has already been absolutely demonstrated. This is only possible because the mind is not limited by the small skull it is enclosed in, but the brain is limited in the skull.
Then for what purpose do we have the brain?
The brain does not think. It is the mind that thinks. The brain is just the instrument of the mind, but it is not the mind. The brain has been created to perceive thoughts, but it is not the thoughts. It is like a musical instrument or a radio. The mind can play anything on the musical instrument or the radio of the brain, and the brain will accordingly play that sound.
So that means that our thoughts can come from anywhere and go anywhere? They need not to be limited to the brain or the skull?
You can find it in your own experience. The realm of thought where man lives could never be closed inside the very limited space contained within the skull. If there were a man living under such circumstances, he would obviously be the most unfortunate man in the world. Were the thoughts of a man enclosed in his skull, he would be unable to see or perceive the inner worlds.
So if the mind is an energy, then there must be a way to manage it well?
All human beings can learn to use their minds properly. The consciousness, wrapped in the mind, has the capacity to travel at will, through space and even through time itself, as the great seers of the past did. However, it is urgent to know how and why the mind works.
There's been so much written about the importance of learning to use the mind properly.
Yes. When you know the diverse workings of the mind, you can control it, and it becomes a useful and perfect instrument, a wonderful vehicle that can enable us to work for the sake of humanity. However, you need a realistic system if you truly want to realize the potential of the human mind. Nowadays, there are many studies about mind control. There are people who think that certain artificial exercises can be great to control one's mind, but we need to understand first, how does the mind work? Why does it work? For instance, If we throw a stone into a lake, we will see that waves appear. They are the reaction of the lake, of the water, to the stone. In a similar way, if somebody says an ironic word to us, this word reaches the mind, and the mind reacts against that word. Then we have conflicts. So this is the nature of the mind. But do we know how to deal with such conflicts? Everybody has problems. Everybody has conflicts. But most people don't know how to deal with it. I've observed carefully the debating sessions of many organizations, schools, etc. They do not respect one another. Why? Because they do not respect themselves. You can observe it yourselves. Observe a Senate, a House of Representatives, or simply a school table. If someone says something, someone else takes it personally, gets angry and says something worse. They argue, and the members of the directive table end up in a great chaos. The fact that their minds react against the impacts of the outer world is a very grave question.
How does one deal with this problem, which is becoming more and more common these days?
You truly have to appeal to the introspective psychoanalysis to explore your own mind. It is necessary to know ourselves a little more within the intellectual realm. For example, why do we react when faced with a neighbor's word? In these conditions, we are always the victims. If somebody wants us to be glad, they just have to pat us on the back and say some kind words. If somebody wants us to be angry, they only have to say some nasty words to us. Then, where is our true intellectual freedom? Does it exist? We really depend on other people. We are slaves. Our psychological processes depend exclusively on other people. We do not control our psychological processes, and that is terrible. Can such a mind be of any use? If everybody has the right to have us under their control, what has become of our intellectual freedom then? Where is it?
How do we regain control of our mind, of our own life?
It is clear that we must become more and more independent of the mind. For this, we must not identify with the mind. We must observe it, but never identify with it. By doing this, we get detached from our mind. Why do we need to do so? The mind is a dungeon, a jail where we are all prisoners. We need to escape that jail if we really want to know what freedom is. The freedom which does not belong to time, the freedom which does not belong to the mind. Above all, the mind must be considered something alien to the being. Unfortunately, everybody, quite identified with the mind, says, "I am thinking," and they feel that they're the mind. Humanity has lost the correct way to deal with the mind. There are schools which are involved in strengthening the mind. They offer correspondence courses. They teach you how to develop the mental force, etc. But this is all absurd. Strengthening the bars of the prison where we are is not the right thing to do. We really need to destroy those bars in order to know the true freedom. That, as I already said, does not belong to time. As long as we remain within the jail of the intellect, we will not be able to experience true freedom. The mind in itself is a very painful jail. Up to now, there has not been a single man who has been happy with the mind. The happiest of moments we have all had in life have always taken place when the mind was not present. For example, when we fall in love, or when we see a beautiful child, or a sunrise, or sunset, or any moment that gave us happiness. These moments have lasted only for an instant. Yes, but we will never be able to leave those memories behind. In that second, we have known what happiness is. But it has only lasted for a second. The mind does not know what happiness is. It is a prison. We must learn to control the mind, to tame it, not our neighbors, but our own. if we want to become independent of it. Let's remember the Palm Sunday when the Divine Master Jesus entered Jerusalem, riding on a donkey. That donkey is the mind, which must be subdued. We must ride on the donkey and not let the donkey ride on us. Unfortunately, people are victims of the mind, for they cannot ride on the donkey. The mind is a donkey, which is too clumsy and which must be controlled if we truly want to ride on it.
How come the identification with the mind is not good for us?
The mind in itself is the house of the ego. Destroying the ego is urgent, so that the mental substance may be used in a transcendental way. The ego uses the mental energy to manifest. As the ego is destroyed, the mental energy, the mental substance, becomes free to experience real beauty, real joy. The important thing is to get rid of this clumsy mind, and once we are free from it, to learn to unfold in the world of the pure spirit without the mind. And to know how to live in that current of sound, which is beyond the mind and which does not belong to time. In the mind, we really find ignorance. The real wisdom is not in the mind, it is beyond the mind. The mind is ignorant, and that is why it makes again and again so many serious mistakes. There are people who advertise mental courses, who promise to give mental powers, who teach people how to control their neighbor's mind, etc. What fools they are! The mind has not made anybody happy. True happiness is quite beyond the mind. You cannot get to know happiness until you become independent of the mind. In the 49 departments of the mental subconscious hide each and every one of the psychological aggregates. Becoming independent of this egotistic mind is important in order to know the real, not to know it in an intellectual way or as a concept, but to experience it in a real and true way in ourselves.
You have said that the mind is the ego. Can you please explain more about this?
Yes, I will. In the world, there are many speakers who have an amazing eloquence, but there are not many people who can listen. Knowing how to listen is very difficult. There are really few individuals who can truly listen. When a school teacher or a lecturer speaks, the audience looks very attentive, as if they were following in detail each of the speaker's words. It really looks as if they were listening, as if they were in a state of alert. But deep inside each individual psyche, there is a secretary that translates each of the speaker's words. This secretary is the I, the myself, the oneself. This secretary's job consists in misinterpreting, in mistranslating the speaker's words. The I translates according to its prejudices, preconceptions, fears, pride, anxieties, ideas, memories, etc., etc., etc. The school pupils, or all the individuals who make up the listening audience, are not really listening to the speaker. They are listening to themselves. They are listening to their own egos that are unwilling to accept the real, the truth. When the mind is conditioned by memory, it only repeats what it has accumulated. A mind conditioned by the experiences of so many yesterdays can only see the present through the blurry lenses of the past. Rough, rude, deteriorated, and degenerated minds can never listen, can never discover the new. Such minds can only understand in a wrong way the absurd translations of that satanic secretary called the I, the myself, or the ego.
Then what is the right way to listen to others?
If we want to know how to listen, if we want to learn how to listen in order to discover the new, we must learn to live according to the philosophy of moment to moment. We must learn to live from moment to moment, without the prejudices and preconceptions acquired in the past. We must learn to see life with an open mind. The mind of children and young people are more elastic, supple, quick alert, etc. There are many children and young people who enjoy asking their parents and teachers about this, that, and the other. They wish to know something more. They want to know, and that is why they ask. Observe. See certain details that adults despise or do not perceive. As the years pass, as we become older, the mind crystallizes itself little by little. The mind of old people is rigid, petrified, and would not change for anything in the world. It is urgent for teachers who are in charge of forming the personality of students to study the mind in depth so that they are able to intelligently guide the new generations.
As the mind goes rigid with old age, how does it affect our daily life?
The mind is the worst enemy of love. In super-civilized countries, love no longer exists because people's minds only smell of factories, bank accounts, petrol and plastics, etc. There are many traps for the mind, and the mind of every person is well bottled up. There are some who have bottled their minds in jealousy, hatred, desires to be rich, high social position, pessimism, attachment to certain people, attachment to their own suffering, family problems, etc. People enjoy bottling up the mind. Few are those who truly decide to break the bottle to pieces. We need to free the mind, but people are pleased with slavery. It is very rare to find someone in life that does not have the mind totally bottled up. Teachers should teach their students all these things. They should teach new generations to investigate their own mind, to observe it and understand it. Only through profound understanding can we prevent the mind from crystallizing, freezing, and becoming bottled up. The only thing that can transform the world is that which is called love, but the mind destroys love. We need to study our own mind, observe it, deeply investigate it, and truly understand it. Only in this way, becoming masters of ourselves, of our own mind, will we kill the killer of love and then be truly happy.
Then what can we do to reclaim love in our life, in our family, in our relationships?
We have to annihilate the I, the myself, the ego, in order not to lose the child of love. The I is a bunch of memories, cravings, fears, hatreds, passions, experiences, selfishness, envies, greed, lust, etc. Only by understanding each defect separately, studying and directly observing it, not only in the intellectual region but also in all subconscious levels of the mind, will each defect disappear. And thus we die from moment to moment. In this way, and only in this way, will we achieve the disintegration of the I. So we must eliminate the I to reclaim love. Another thing we must do is to avoid the bad habit of comparing. The mind has the bad habit of comparing. A man compares a girlfriend with another. A woman compares a man with another. A teacher compares a student with another, as if not all of them deserve the same appreciation. All comparisons are really abominable. Whoever contemplates a beautiful sunset and compares it with another cannot really understand the beauty he has before his eyes. Where there is comparison, there is no true love. A father and a mother who truly love their children will never compare them to anyone. They will simply love them, and that's all. A husband who really loves his wife never makes the mistake of comparing her to anyone else. He loves her, and that's all. A mind divided by the struggle of opposites is not capable of understanding the new. It becomes petrified and frozen. The mind has many depths, regions, subconscious areas, nooks. But the best is the essence, the consciousness, which is in the center. When dualism ceases to exist, when the mind becomes integrated, serene, quiet, profound, when it no longer compares, then the essence, the consciousness, awakens. And when the essence awakens, it brings the true eternal joy.
What are the signs of progress that we should watch out for to know that our mind has started behaving correctly?
The correct behavior of the mind involves analysis, meditation, and comprehension. There is no need to accept anything in a dogmatic way. It is urgent to investigate, analyze, inquire, and understand. When understanding is complete, acceptance is unnecessary. It is useless to fill our heads with intellectual information if on leaving school we do not know how to think, and continue like living robots, like machines, repeating the same routine of our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc. All our schools, colleges, are just loading us with more information, and we do not know how to deal with it, how to use it. So we end up either accepting or rejecting it. Accepting or rejecting any doctrine or concept reveals a lack of mental maturity. We reject or accept something when we have not understood it. Whenever understanding exists, accepting or rejecting is unnecessary. The mind that believes, the mind that does not believe, or the mind that doubts is an ignorant mind. The path of wisdom does not consist in believing, not believing, or doubting. The path of wisdom consists in inquiring, analyzing, meditating, and experimenting. The truth is the unknown from moment to moment. The truth has nothing to do with what one believes or disbelieves. Neither does it have anything to do with skepticism. The truth is not a matter of accepting or rejecting something. The truth is a matter of experimenting, living, understanding. All the efforts on the part of teachers should ultimately lead students into experiencing what is real, what is true. Only through the path of love can we achieve true consciousness and true knowledge. It is necessary to understand the complex problem of the mind if we truly want to tread the path of love.